Mirror yard. It is cold. It's 31 degrees out, and there's quite a little bit of wind coming down the lake. But we're gonna go see if we can find some big trout today on flies, trolling flies. So not on a fly rod. If I don't freeze to death. On the wiggle fin fly. So today I'm out trolling flies for rainbow trout, and this is a really effective technique when those fish are feeding on the upper 10 feet of the water column in the wintertime and early spring, when these water temperatures are really bottomed out in the 40s in these large reservoirs. Now you can use a variety of flies, but there are actually specific flies developed for this type of fishing called trolling flies. They typically incorporate some kind of stiff material, usually deer hair or some sort of synthetic. And you can just flat line them behind the boat and sometimes catch fish that way. But there are several things you can do to sort of add action to these lures while you're trolling them at high speeds, which lets you cover a lot of water. But if you add that little bit of action, you're going to end up with more fish taking your flies. I'm going to go over some of those techniques today. There we go. First rainbow of the day, just a little guy. See, hit that fly there, just a sort of typical planter size rainbow, just a little guy. And you see that fin on the front, that's called a wiggle fin. Here's my small trolling fly. This one is made from mylar. Has a couple of hooks and a bead. And then on the front, I've added this little action disc. This is a wiggle fin. And what that causes the fly to do is to sort of erratically move up and down in varying directions as I'm trolling it. And that just adds that little bit of extra action that can often trigger the bite. And you can add those on in front of any fly, really, or even hoochies and things like that. And it'll give it very erratic action. I'm not running a dodger or nothing here, because at these fast trolling speeds, I'm doing 2.5 miles per hour today. A dodger is just going to spin around and around. And this lets me cover a lot of water, because I know that the fish are really spread out right now. They're feeding on or near the surface, and this just increases my odds that I'm going to connect with the fish by covering more water rather than trolling with a dodger, which I have to slow way down. You can tip these with a little bit of bait, but you don't want to add so much weight that it impedes the action of that wiggle fin. There's a fish. Nice. He's really jumping back there. Another one on the wiggle fin. Woo. He's thumping. Oop, there's fish there too. Got fish on the side planter as well right now. If I get this guy off in a hurry. That's a nice fish. There we go. I don't know if I still have this fish or not. Check over here. Go and kill it. Oh yeah, I still feel him. Let's see what we got here. Ooh, another nice rainbow. A little bit bigger than the last couple ones I've got. That is a beautiful rainbow. Gorgeous. Oh, get off the transducer there, buddy. Oh, that's the problem with it. Just on the side. There we go. Yeah, this is a stunning rainbow here. This is more the kind of grade of fish I'm looking for today. Really beautiful. Nice. Look at that chunker. That's a gorgeous looking rainbow. Healthy. very chunky. So I caught that bigger rainbow on this orange and black Frisky Jenny on a side planer. So if you haven't seen these before, this is called a Sidewinder inline planer board. And what's cool about this is it does two things. It pulls the fly away from the kayak so I can cover a wider area. I can cover more water. But more importantly, especially when trolling a fly without sort of any attractor, as this thing skips along the waves, it creates that same motion on the fly. So as I go through the waves and this thing skips like a little boat over the top of the waves, doing this kind of motion, a herky-jerky motion, that fly is also moving erratically. And it's kind of nice, especially on these, if you get like a really windy day or choppy day, oftentimes the planer board fly will outfish any fly that you put out because it's just getting so much action. And I'm going to show you how these work. So I don't have any weight on that fly because I know these fish are feeding in the top 10 feet of the water column. And so I'm just going to run out about 75 feet behind the kayak. And then what I do is you'll see I have that bill turned up and turned this way. And all I do is I take my main line and I run it underneath and I clip it into this rubber band release here. Sometimes it releases, sometimes it doesn't. But it's supposed to release when I catch a fish or hook a fish. And then all I do is I let this out to the side and you'll see it starts planing away from the kayak immediately. And I won't go very far away from the kayak here. I'm just trying to push it out away, but also give it some space to bounce on those waves. And then I lock it, put it in the rod holder, and now that planer board, you can see on the rod tip the action that it's kind of not much waves back here, but you already see it's kind of thumping. When I get onto the main lake and I go directly into the waves, it really gets kicking. But that's adding a little bit of action. It's also carrying that fly a little bit closer to the shoreline, so I can troll out here in 20 foot of water and have this one working deep water over deep water, and I have this one within feet of shore and trolling near the surface. So if there's those rainbows are feeding along the shoreline, then that planer board is targeting them. There's a fish right there. And the line just slides through that planer board once it releases. These fish are really stacked in here along this one particular chunk of shoreline. Woo. Another really nice trout. Man, these are really healthy, these fish here. The two that I've caught on this one have been relatively small, but on this larger fly, I'm catching some very nice rainbows. Whew, they are chunky. The wind's calmed down, so now there's a lot less waves, so the action on that planer board isn't quite as good right now. It's still skipping though, and that's important. So you'll see it'll build up a little bit of water pressure on the front of the planer board, and it'll kind of skip and jolt forward, and that's still adding that erratic speed to those flies. And the cool thing is like I said, it's way off to the side of the kayak now, so I can troll in along this cliff face. Oop, there's fish. And pull fish that are feeding tight to shore while I'm still out here targeting fish feeding over 40 feet of water. This feels like a smaller one. Yeah. This fly is catching all the dinks. That fly is catching all the big ones. Maybe bigger flies do catch bigger fish. Jeez. Now this is getting all the action. And that makes sense. As the waves calm down, the action on that planer board declined, and now it seems like I'm getting more action on this wiggle fin, just because it's probably behaving a little more erratically back there. Oh, no, still just the same size. Just a little planter. Sometimes the little guys will trick you. They fight harder. I went ahead and pinched the barbs on all these after those first 2 fish. Forgot to do that. Now it should be easier to release them. There we go. See you later there, little buddy. Go get bigger. Oh, there we go. Oh man, he slammed that. Oh, I got a double going. That's another sort of the average size for this. It's a little guy. Get in the baby. Oop. There we go. Yep, there's fish. Feels like a good one. Oop. Another double. I want more of those big ones. Just a baby. Oh, there we go. That's buried. The water temps today are 47 degrees. I'm marking very few fish, which probably means most of the fish are feeding in the top 5 to 10 foot of the water column. Air temps are in the low 30s. Oh, that's a decent fish there. Whoa! Whoa! This guy's a bullet. I like this guy's spunk. Not the biggest rainbow, but man, is he spunky. Look. Healthy looking. Ooh, there's fish. That's how it always goes. More than one every time. There you go. Always a double. Not a bad looking fish. Fat. Holy cow. Yeah, that's a good looking fish. Wow, look at that fish. That is a chunker. A chunker. Ooh. There's a hit. So you see I have a bead and swivel down here to stop that side planer from going down and hitting the fly or knocking the fish off. That's a nice fat rainbow. There he goes. Oop. See you, bud. Well, it's definitely slowed down. It is glass out here right now, and the sun is high in the sky. And those shallow feeding rainbows just feel a little bit more vulnerable, so they're probably running a little bit deeper, which is why the bites slowed down since I'm still working the surface. This would be the right time to bust out the crankbaits or add a little bit more weight to some of these flies, or even run traditional pop gear. But my toes are freezing, so I think I'm going to make this my last fish of the day. Kind of your average size for the day, a basic size planter. Still fat and healthy though. You got him. Alright, gonna get this guy back in the water, and I'll see you guys next time out on the water or out on the ice. And remember, fish smarter, not harder. Bye guys.